I plan to walk you through, I guess, my writing journey and the tribulations and insecurities of being a writer I had along the way. I'll talk about how my debut book, it came out last November, how this helped me deal with the trauma of my past, I guess. I want to give a content warning up front. Some of the heavy stuff I'll talk about in my talk deals with sexual assault towards me, just to let y'all know. But anyways, this is me as a child. As you can tell, I was very happy to be alive. This is a close-up of my face as a baby. This is one of my favorite photos of myself because it encapsulates a lot of my bitterness and perhaps like anger against like things like the sand. I didn't like the sand growing up. So I'll start with one of the first poems of my book, and it's about my birth, and it's from the perspective of a mother speaker. March 4th. Tell the priest to wait outside the hospital room. I'm wiping the blood off his handsome head. My son must be presentable to the world. My son, the world will try to bury you. Your name will be Jum, meaning loyalty, or made bed every morning. I sent your father home to tidy up the house. I hid a bottle of fish sauce in your crib. Do not ever forget that I am your mother. I will give you a clean life. I will stitch you a towel out of lullabies. I will hold you in one hand and a napkin in the other. You will collect the dust from the attic, catch it on your tongue. You will be porcelain, jade, and the slipping of dishes into the sink. You will be hair slicked back, skin clear, and mouth compressed, but right now, this moment, you are gunk. You are imperfect. You are a dragonfly made of placenta rouge. Right now, I have your blood and my blood cradled. A sacred intimacy, seeing your filthy innocence. Oh, thank you. So yeah, I was born March 4th. This is my older sister, my older brother, and my grandma from my dad's side. I was born in Houston, Texas, in a Vietnamese American family. My parents fled the Vietnam War, and they fell in love in Houston. I was a pretty quiet kid. My parents told me that I didn't even have my first word until I was 3 years old, which apparently is very late. They said that I was still trying to figure out what words I wanted to say in this world, and I think that still holds true today. Throughout my life, I've been told how amazing my dad's mother was. She was like the matriarch of our family. In pictures, I'm pretty much looking like a bedazzled deer with a bow tie. But she's always looking serious, but I heard that she was very loving. She took care of me and my siblings when my parents went out to Vietnamese clubs. And she had these like very cool black teeth in her mouth. And I had a story from my mom where she used to sneak soda in my milk bottle to get me to shut up, I think. So this next poem is about my first ever memory. And it's a kind of a sad one because my first memory of my life, as far back as I can go, was about my grandmother, but on her deathbed in the hospital. So I really wish that I had more memories of her. But this is the one true one I have. My first memory. My first memory was 4-year-old me drooling over my mother's bare shoulder. She makes sure to keep swaying because she needs me to stay quiet, to not interrupt the drowning at the foot of the hospital bed, where my father lay sprawled, his legs floating on the linoleum. His hands tuck in his mother's left foot, holding onto her last exhale. The doctor says something where his mouth contorts into a garrote. My father lets out a cry, a hook that tears itself into my earlobe, the kind of childlike wail that disrupts the homily until the echo is carried away outside, and you know they feel awful. It's not their fault. But after you drag your finger through the water and see them red, exasperated outside, you say nothing to them. And what is the worth of pride when your boat burns into the ocean? When you are the fire and the ship sinking and the salt digging into eyes, skin of your hands torn from holding the anchor dragged by the riptide. What then can a circling family in the hospital do when the captain is damning the God his mother reminded him to pray to every night because she said, "How do you know when it will be your time?" Even though a week prior, my parents were asking around for white headbands, incense, and life vests to prepare for the funeral. Elementary and middle school, I was still pretty quiet. I kept my head down, just did my work. Our dinner tables were pretty silent. We didn't talk about feelings much. I would get into trouble about like crying or complaining. There were a lot of sad things that happened in my childhood that I kept hidden until I wrote this book. So I think this book was an exercise of compartmentalizing and organizing this sadness that was mentioned in the beginning, in my intro. And it wasn't until this book till I felt comfortable talking about it. A lot of times I think I kept it hidden because there were a lot of people in my life that told me, it's not worth the effort or work to speak up about certain things. So this is one of the moments that happened to me, or it's based off a moment that happened to me. So this poem is in the form of a mirror. So you'll see that in the middle of the poem, it kind of goes in reverse. Wisconsin has a place in my heart I just wanted to let go. Thomas tells me that trauma is trite, that to open up wounds is to bleed yourself out. Snow in Wisconsin blocks the front door of my cousin's house. In the north, the foyer has stairs up and down. The basement, in broad daylight, is a gray sky. A groaning fly by my ear. The only other noise besides the flinching of my arms, my cousin's breath, heavy on my neck. Heavy on my neck, my cousin's breath, the flinching of arms, a fly by my ear. The only other noise beside the basement in broad daylight is the sky groaning gray. In the north, the foyer has stairs covered up and down in snow. Wisconsin blocks the front door of my cousin's house. It opens up wounds. Bleed yourself out, Thomas tells me. Trauma is trite. So this is amazing. I think if I had this in my high school, I would have been like a writer in a much faster pace. But luckily enough, when I was 13 years old, my ninth grade English teacher, Miss Simmons, she had a poetry month at my high school where we just kind of close read poems and we looked at spoken word poetry videos. And she actually held a mock poetry slam in the auditorium. And she said that if you participated, you would get extra credit. So really, I just did it to get extra credit. And I got second place, but then we found out that the person who got first place plagiarized her poem. So I ended up getting first place. And my prize was to go to the downtown Houston library, where I met two of my first early poetry mentors. Their names was Outspoken Bean and the Fluent One. And basically, they were having writing workshops 3 times a week downtown Houston library in the summer. And I went every day for about 2 months. And because I went so much, I was able to try out for the Metaphor Houston Youth Poetry Slam team. And essentially, you had to be the first 6 places to make the team. And unfortunately, I got 8th place. But then, by the skin of my teeth, someone had a time penalty, so they got knocked out. And then the next person couldn't do the time commitment in the summer. So because of those 2 lucky things, I got the 6th and final spot on this youth slam team in Houston, which I had no idea what that meant. So I made the team, and afterwards, we had practice 3 times a week in the summer at the downtown library where we wrote poems together, We memorized them, we performed them. And the reason we did that was because we got to travel each summer to an international poetry slam competition called Brave New Voices. It's kind of like y'all have Louder Than a Bomb here, right? Yeah. It's like that, except, I mean, I don't want to create like a rival, but I think it's like way big. I don't know, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to piss on Louder Than a Bomb, but it's kind of like that. And actually, my first ever Brave New Voices was here in Chicago in 2009. So I owe a lot of my poetry success to this first competition I had in Chicago. So I owe a lot to Chicago. So yeah, this is me in quarterfinals in Chicago with my team. I'm doing some like really bad group poem where I'm really into it with Justin Bieber bangs. This is me at Giordano's. I don't know if y'all been to that pizza place or if it's overrated at this point. And this is me eating a hot dog with my teammate, Chicago style. Yeah, it was a very formative time for me. I got lost in the streets. I ate pizza and hot dogs. I got to connect with writers from all across the world who were learning to use their voice. It was also the first time that I dealt with someone crossing boundaries and exploiting like what consent was. There were like 500 people at this competition. It was easy to get lost in the crowd. And there was a person on another team that but they coerced me into doing sexual things I didn't want to do, really. I was 13 and they were 19, so there was already like a big power dynamic. I didn't know how to speak up. When I brought it to my older teammates, they kind of just laughed it off. They called it like a mark of manhood. So I never talked about it again to anyone, especially not my own family. Because of shame, because of toxic masculinity, I think sexual assault or coercion often goes unreported. And I think, the binary notions of manhood contribute to why sexual assaults against men don't go reported often. It's actually the first time I've talked publicly about this, even when my book came out. I think it was because it's a hard thing to do, but I think when I was in high school, I wish someone taught me that it was okay to speak up, no matter what gender I was. So this is a poem based on that experience in Chicago. Marie Kondo is my hero. Marie Kondo is like an aspirational figure in my book. Because this book is about like dealing with sadness and pain. I look to Marie Kondo as like a source of inspiration to try to organize it all. Marie Kondo is my hero, a lesson on clothing. No, this does not spark joy, but more so, this is the only shirt I have where the sleeves are shorter than the waist, not as long as the neck, trust me. I need as many scarves as I can get, except I can scrap this blue one. It smells like 2010 all over again, like Los Angeles smog, but instead, it can see through my skin. My skin, can't you see there is no spark? It's black from shorting out, hot wire, touching carpet without permission, a circuit with no impedance. I sweat and sweat, the fork red and prodding, an outlet with no surge protector. My white shirt, where did they put my white shirt? The one I wore on the plane from Houston with my youth team. Where is my coach? They trusted me to be without supervision. No, wait, you're older than my older sister, but younger than my older brother. You're old enough to be a mentor. Turn it on or else. I wish to wrap the missing white shirt, the PacSun board shorts, the gray Hollister boxers, using the white sheet of the bunk bed, the one that splits my mind in half, just to have the top bunk collapse. Yeah, I don't read that poem often. Wow. So yeah, I ended up making the Metaphor Youth Poetry team for like 4 years, my whole high school time. And I think because of going on stage, doing a poem, for like random people in the audience to judge you on a scale of 0 to 10. I graduated high school with really thick skin, for better or worse. I think I was burnt out. So I got tired of writing poems because it didn't feel authentic to me anymore. And at this point, I didn't think I was successful enough to continue being a writer. So I got into my freshman year at UT Austin as a biochem major. I was going to be a dentist, actually. My freshman year of undergrad, I gave up writing. And during my time as a freshman at UT Austin, I started thinking about, the whiteness of it all. I was an RA, and we had a lot of training about like diversity and inclusion. I think Austin, people think Austin is a beacon of like progressiveness and liberalness, but there's still, white privilege that weeps through the city. And during this time, I thought about my own body. I thought about my Vietnamese identity, and a lot of self-hatred I grew up with. I recognized how other people perceived me, I think. This next poem is a meditation on that perception and the idea of the white gaze. The idea of like, this is when I was doing like DoorDash, right, and Grubhub, because I was trying to make ends meet to pay for bills. So one time I had to deliver Texas barbecue to a bachelorette party, like a huge amount of Texas barbecue. So this poem is based off that moment. After I was mistaken for the stripper while delivering barbecue to an all-white bachelorette party. 1, if I had a stripper name, it would be pork loins. Marinated in my mother's seasoning, I am mostly bone, but my butt is meaty. My neck is long, but you can still love me if you want a brisket. In the eventual end, it will be my own doing. If I had a dollar bill for every human who wanted to see me naked, I'd still be paying loans back. Being wanted was never simmered. I am the lamb's wool and the wolf crying beneath thin skin, licked between my ribs in rich blandness. I am best served with oyster sauce. 2, and there I stood, a bag of meat, head in the crosshairs, unknown terrain, door closing behind, young deer in the trenches, stay motionless. Don't make the first move, kindled fire, feet too warm, apple between the teeth, arrow pointed to the navel, knives and forks and stomachs, lack of fat, sucked bones, upside down, blood draining, unconsciousness. Serpent at my throat, boiling rice, serpent in my throat, not clean, serpent down my throat. 3, is this what being a sacrifice smells like? 26 jewel-studded cowboy boots circle me, tongues glistening in the spur of heat. My sophomore year of class, my writing experience was saved when my friend who I met during my Bring Me Voices time, Ariana Brown, she invited me to the student-led poetry group called UT Spitshine. I went, and Ariana taught me the value of writing from the heart, honestly and with vulnerability. And I fell in love with writing again in a whole new way. I was writing things that felt important to me, not just because I needed points from a crowd. So we made up a team to compete at the collegiate national level. This is the 2015 team here, just me trying to look cool. But in 2014, we won the whole thing. We went to Boulder, Colorado, and my team won first place in the National Collegiate Poetry Championship. Thanks. There I am with, I don't know why I'm wearing plaid. I don't wear plaid anymore. But it was a very amazing, I called my mentors, I was like, I did it. I won a national championship. I still didn't feel good enough. I felt like I was the worst on my team. Even though, we won the whole thing. I still had the plan that, after being on UT Spitshine for my whole collegiate, career, I was gonna quit writing still and just focus on being a dentist. So I took my biochem classes and I took the dental admissions test, and here are some examples from the dental admissions test. This is perceptual ability. And I even, I took the test, I got an interview into a dental school in the Northeast. And when I got the call for the interview, it just didn't feel right in my gut. I knew it wasn't something that I wanted to do. It was something I thought I should want to do. So I took a long, hard, semester thinking about if I should go to dental school or not. And there were three things that helped me take the plunge into being a professional writer. One of them was music. Another one was, organization. And the third thing was like advice from my friends and family. So the first thing was music. It was actually Mitski. Her album actually came out today. But she has a song called Because Dreaming Costs Money, My Dear. And it's about like following one's passion, even though it might hurt in the short run, but it will help you in the long run. So I owe a lot to Mitski. I actually had to talk with her manager to get rights to use lyrics from one of her songs from my book. That's how much she means to me. And I think the second thing was organization. So this is from Kundiman. This is from the retreat for Kundiman. And Kundiman is a national organization, and their whole mission is to uplift and cultivate Asian American writing. And I applied to go to their retreat, their writing retreat, and I got in. And it was like the first time being surrounded by faces that looked like me, who were writing things that I understood and who understood me. And that kind of affirmation was something I really needed to show that I was part of something bigger than myself. There was a community behind me. There was a poem I wrote at the Kundiman retreat in 2017. And if I didn't write it, I don't think this book would have happened, because the affirmation I got from them because of this poem really gave me a lot of confidence. Is anyone here Vietnamese? My favorite Vietnamese dish is thịt kho. It's like this braised pork with egg dish, and I wrote this poem there. And it means a lot to me. My mom makes it every time I come home. Thịt kho. Miles away, I forget to peel the eggs the night before. Miles away, I forget to buy the special brand of coconut juice. Miles away, my mother is laughing once I swallow my pride and call. It'll never be quite the same, she says. Just try your best and finish your food. When you buy fish sauce, you must remember to wrap it in newspaper. If the bottle breaks in the car, the stench will haunt you long after the car is compacted. She tells me that it's okay to cry because the yolks still aren't hard enough. I am blessed to have a mother who talks about death, who knows her mortality. I imagine my mother's passing, and I know she won't have enough grandchildren. I will have added too much pepper and not enough boiled eggs. It's called simmering for a reason. The house smells of coconut. Braised pork and hot rice. Rice cleaned thoroughly. Between the sounds of the blue flame lies an emulsified telephone cord. Our recipes would never be quite the same, but we both wear gloves to peel eggs. When I cook for my mother, I know she will lie. And then the third final thing that helped me plunge into this professional writing career was I went to a restaurant with my friend Tony, and I asked him what he learned from undergrad, and he said not to lie to yourself. I took that to heart. I think the whole time I thought I could be a writer on the side and kind of have it be a hobby, and do anything else I want to do beyond that. But I think that talk kind of, it lit a flame inside of me to follow my passions wholeheartedly. And it happened at my favorite restaurant, Waffle House. And it happened over some hot Cheetos. So I owe a lot to Waffle House and Hot Cheetos. Raise your hand if you're lactose intolerant. And raise your hand still if you still eat dairy, because exactly, we sacrifice our body to enjoy the pleasure of some cheese products. So these next poems are for those who have stomach issues and or have a lot of gas. It's also based on, I have a pet peeve. I hate those like placement of hand towels above toilets. Like I'm in a hotel and they have the towel above the toilet, like in that bar. I think that's very poor placement in the bathroom. I actually get really grossed out from the idea of like flushing the toilet and the particles hitting the towel. Anyways, that was like my rant on towels above toilets. These next two poems have a lot of toilet imagery. So if you need toilet poems, you should take notes. So yeah, two poems back to back with toilets. Self-portrait as the hand towel which hangs above the toilet. Yes, the easy joke is that I am hanging out. Like I have nothing better to do than dry. Like your hands after you're done with me. Like no one asked me if it's okay to use me. No, I do not open my mouth wide when the toilet gets flush. Why do you think the horrible of me? None the wiser when I explain I rest out of the flush zone. No, it was not my choice to do this type of towel work, to do this thankless duty, to do what no one else will do. Yes, I gaze at the most vulnerable, the backs of long strained necks, the backs of skulls that haven't been held, the backs of ears that never listened to my advice. No, there's more work to be done beyond washing your hands. No one asked me to watch out for germs, but I soak them all up. Wash the dirt from beneath nails that don't wave back. Yes, I am lonely. I am sad and feel unloved. I am sick of the smells. I am wanting a life in the kitchen. No, not the ones on reality TV. I just want the silver of fluorescence across my view, the temptation of the oven's handle, sleek, the wild nights of spaghetti and marinara messy. In the bathroom after eating flaming hot Cheetos, I stand from my porcelain throne, feet planted on tile. I gaze into the mirror and I say, you are the creator. You control your heaven. You prepare your hell. You choose again. Again, you choose to continue to burn your insides, your heartburn. Hear your self-worth burn, the crackle of your stubborn spleen, a small intestines twisted, perish pretzel, drenched in self-hatred, toxic masculinity, insecurities masked as microbes, cleansed by trial by fire, purify by boiling, take one hot step on coal, one day at a time, and do not fret, hothead. There's still time to get your whole self on fire. After all, you are still alive, and that is praise enough, and that is flaming hot. So after talking with Tony, I decided to not go to dental school and just focus on my writing. And I had to tell my family, though. So I remember the day very clearly. I mustered up the courage in my bedroom. I went downstairs to the dining room table, and I said, y'all, I have something to talk to y'all about. And my mom thought I became a father, and then my dad thought I broke a crime, and then my sisters got really petrified. And I just said, I think I'm gonna stick with this writing thing. I'm gonna attack it full on, 100%. And then my mom started crying, which made my sister start crying. And my mom said something funny. She was like, no one's gonna love you because you'll be a poor writer. And she meant that with love. And after some conversations, she kind of came around and she kind of supports me in her own way now. But she came around and she basically said, as long as you get health insurance, I'll be fine. So this poem is for my mom. My mother explains universal health care. The bird gives a feather to the sky, like all the other birds do. The bird doesn't get angry about giving a feather. The bird has many feathers to pluck. From afar, it still looks like a bird. One feather a month is for the health of all birds. Blue jays, the assholes, cardinals, pigeons, hummingbirds, penguins, and flamingos. When a bird hops on one leg, someone will nurse it back to health, and the bird doesn't pay a feather. The bird flies on because it should, because it deserves a chance to live. The bird flows gorgeous with the wind. The wind reveals spots where the bird plucked itself. You are not a bird. You are not allowed to fly. So I got into a creative writing program at the University of Mississippi, and that's where I got to work with amazing faculty and focus on my writing. And then I applied to the University of Wisconsin Press's 2021 Felix Pollock Prize in Poetry. And it won out of 600 manuscripts. That's the cover, and that's a Polaroid from the book. And, I think this book really allowed me the time to compartmentalize and think about some moments in my past to craft that into a language that I could digest. I think because I wrote this book, I'm able to reckon with a lot of the past and deal with the future, my present now. I'm also the co-editor of a humor section of a magazine. I went on like a 14-event book tour. I signed books, sold books, and I get the opportunity to talk to people like y'all about the craft of poetry and how community and the self can all help in your writing. I'm working on 3 more manuscripts, a short story collection, 2 more poetry books. And most important of all, since I got into grad school, I now have health care. So shout out to my mom. But I wanted to end on a poem that's actually very hard for me. Because my mentor, Amy Nezuka-Matadol, she told me that I never write anything good about myself. And it's true. I still deal with imposter syndrome, and I can't take a compliment. But I've been trying to work on that, and I think embrace other people's love. I forgot where I learned this, but if someone gave you a gift, you're like, nah, that would come off kind of rude. Now when people compliment me, I kind of see it as like a verbal gift that I should take and not shrug off. But I think writing this book has helped me with that process because there are poems that reckon with the traumatic past, and I think in that mental recovery work, me as the writer, I've been able to do some emotional healing through linguistic organizing, organizing sadness. And I see that in a step to accept myself, and I think this poem is one of those steps. And I hope that, if anything, you walk away with the idea of unlocking parts of yourself you want to interrogate, or unlocking parts of yourself you want to embrace and accept in your writing, or just in life. So this is a poem I wrote because of Amy, and it's after my favorite activity to do with myself. It's called In Praise of My Threaded Eyebrows, after Amy Nezuka-Matadol's In Praise of My Manicure. In praise of thread, doubled and twisted, a helix love affair between beauty and pain, tension of pulled skin, friction in the form of heat. Praise the 2 hands which grasp my hair's execution. Not far behind beauty is pain, the tension of pulling rows of caterpillar legs from the dirt, using the hands of gravity's air to perfect execution, the monarch leaving its chrysalis behind. Well, farewell, caterpillar legs resting below the acne of my forehead. Hello, shiny, sleek queens, arched with a crown full of crystals. Behind the throne, a curtain made of nylon, yanked apart across my forehead. I fall in love with a yellow, sleek queen trimming the hedge above my nose, curtailing made from neon. Yank a part of my body on the edge of the salon, stretched, trimmed, and hedged, and before I know it, there are parts of me that see again. The edge of the salon outstretches its arms, doubled, twisted, helix love of praise and thread. Thank you. Yeah, I'll take questions if you have questions about life, writing process, writing life, etc. 5 minutes, I've been told. What's up? Yeah.
What's your process for writing a poem?
My process for writing a poem, so it takes me a while. I actually have, some people say they write every day, and I tend to have a collection of ideas in my notes in my phone, just titles of poems or ideas for a poem. And I'll think about those titles for 2 months, and then I'll write a first draft handwritten, and then I'll copy it onto my computer, and then I'll sit with it for a long time so that enough distance will happen to where I can look back at the poem and see which lines are trash, and then I can go back to the poem, edit it because I realize this line is trash, and then I'll edit it and write a final poem in another month. So it takes me about 4 months for beginning and end. Yeah. Anything else? Huh? Oh.
Do you have a piece that you're most proud of, or are all of them special to you?
Do I have a piece I'm most proud of? There's a poem in the middle that I didn't read, but it's in the form of a Google Calendar, and I love using Google Calendar, so I think I was proud of using that form of Google Calendar to write a poem because it's about organizing and compartmentalizing different sad stuff in my life. And also the eyebrow poem, just because I don't have any good poems about myself. That was hard for me to write. Thank you for the question. Oh. My favorite Mitski song. Wow, I love that question. Thank you. Because Dreaming Costs Money, My Dear, kind of helped me be a writer, but I think my favorite Mitski song is "Last Words of a Shooting Star." And those are the lyrics that I bought rights to for the book, just because I think it encapsulates a lot of the domestic and the quotidian that I write about as well. And that poem live is amazing to listen to. What's your favorite Mitski song?
I asked for my friend.
Friend, what's your favorite Mitski song?
Mine is Brand New City on the album Launch.
Nice, that's a good one. Thank you.
In the middle here?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so forgive me if I'm wrong, but you're a slam poet, correct? So
Yeah.
okay, so you go out to different places and then you present your poetry, if I'm understanding correctly, right?
Say that again?
So as a slam poet, you go out to different places and present your poetry,
Yes.
correct? Okay, so when presenting it, what has been the weirdest reaction, or after the poetry, what has been the weirdest encounter with the fan?
A weirdest reaction after I present a poem or a weird interaction? I guess actually growing up in college, I actually got a lot of, the weirdest thing would be people offering me drugs after a reading for some reason. I don't know why people do that, because they think all poets take a lot of drugs. I don't know. But that's always weird. Weirdest thing, I think just there was a moment where someone wanted me to sign their sock. And they're like, I'm gonna take my sock off right now. I'm like, it's okay, I don't have to do that. We can sign something else. So that's probably the weirdest moment.
But did you sign the sock, or did you just?
I did not sign the sock. I was afraid of the sock. In hindsight, I should have signed the sock though. Thank you. Thank you for the question. Yeah.
You talked about compartmentalizing all the trauma and traumatic events you've been through. Do you feel a sense of relief after putting it out there in your poems?
do I feel a sense of relief after putting my poems out there, that kind of compartmentalized sadness? Yeah, I think I had to figure out how to talk about that stuff. I think the idea and concept of the book allowed me to write about sad stuff and traumatic things. And because it's out there, I'm able to fully accept my whole life as a person, and to accept my past and to move on with my future. So it is a relief to have it out there now. It's a very personal book, but I hope that it inspires people to, reckon with their own selves and their past and to help themselves for the future. Thank you for the question. Yeah.
They said at the beginning that you like boba. What's your favorite drink?
My favorite boba drink is an oolong milk tea, 70% sugar with boba, less ice. What's your favorite boba milk tea drink?
I usually go with a coffee milk tea.
Coffee milk tea, hardcore. Nice. Anyone from this side? I feel like I haven't looked over here, which is my fault. All right, I'm gonna pivot back.
In the back middle.
Oh. Another Mitski song? I'm joking. Yes. Yes. What are my thoughts on what? Taro milk tea. I think taro milk tea is a delicacy. I think you have to find places that actually do taro well. I think most people do taro syrups, which is fine. If you do a taro syrup, then you have to make sure that the content of the milk is good quality so it doesn't get weird. If you find a place that does actual taro from a can, actual taro, the roots, that's an amazing experience. I think Kung Fu Tea does that. They actually have taro bits in their drinks. So I worked at a milk tea place. I feel like I can talk about this very well. Yeah, I think it's fine if you get a really good quality taro syrup, or good quality milk with taro syrup, or just good quality taro. Thank you.
All right, we're good.
All right, thank y'all so much. Have a good next period.